Hey guys, today I'm just quickly going to talk about hand patches. So what's a hand patch? It's actually the patch on a violin that you touch most. So let me show you on this beautiful Colombazong violin. When you're playing, hand tends to touch around here, okay? Especially if as you go into the higher positions, your hand actually rests on these edges and the rib. So this area here is called the hand patch. And people with different perspiration will have a different effect on the hand patch. And then also each instrument is actually varnished differently. So this here is an old German violin. It's made in Mittenwald. It's a Klotz family violin. And that is, so it's over 200 years old, and you can see it's had a bit of wear and tear. Let me show you one that's not quite as old, but has an even more worn hand patch. Look at this. Okay, so this is an old German, it's quite a beautiful old German violin. So this side's totally fine, not the hand patch. But then you go to this side and literally all the varnish has worn off. So it's all gone, and that's from just playing. But then the problem is that once that varnish has worn off, there's no protection. So anytime you perspire, sweat from your hands, that sweat actually soaks into the wood. What happens next? So perspiration or sweat has oil in it, oil and acid, a bit of salt. So that's not really good for the wood. So this soaks into the wood. It'll start actually getting into the glue. So this instrument here, I had to actually glue this patch because it had opened up. So now no varnish, sweat soaking in, and then it starts soaking up into the instrument further. So this is a beautiful old French violin, and basically the perspiration soaked from here all the way to here. You can see the darkened patch here. So it's gone all the way to here. So it's soaked, what is that, like 3 to 4 inches, so about 10 centimeters into the top plate. But the player actually left it so long that that the instrument is so oil soaked that it no longer glues. Like you glue it together and the glue just doesn't hold. This is terrible for a violin maker. Firstly, it makes a violin maker look really bad because obviously the client takes it to the violin maker to get repaired, but then it comes back and then poof, immediately it comes open again. I mean, that's terrible. And I've had situations throughout my career where this has happened, and these days when there's open joints, I actually look very carefully if that's the case, because I've had absolutely furious customers after I glued their instruments and it literally came apart again 3 days later, thinking that, you know, I was using bad glue or something like that. So now you learn when you've been doing this for 35 years, this was in my first 10 years, you learn to actually look out for that. And when you can see that there are no strong gluing surfaces, something drastic so I actually have to use certain types of chemicals to try and soak the oil out of the timber. But you've got to be so careful because you lose some of the varnish. I mean, yeah, you end up losing some of the original varnish. So it's a really dangerous operation, like dangerous for the instrument. It's so frustrating. So there's a very simple thing you can do to protect your hand patch. And the very first one is this. So when you sit down, hold your instrument like this, not like this, okay? Never hold your instrument like this. I just did it. Hold your instrument like this. You can literally see like where people have put their finger. You can literally see the marks of the fingers on some instruments. It is unbelievable. Secondly, make sure there's always varnish on the hand patch. When you start seeing just a little bit of wearing around that area, just get it sorted. It doesn't cost much. Maybe $50, maybe $50, maybe $150 at maximum if you've got a beautiful old instrument. But get it done, because the restoration could cost you thousands. So just get it done. It's worth it. So anyway, I'll show you what I'm going to do with this hand patch to sort it out. Okay, here we go. All right, so let's get started. So what I've done is just gone over this with very, very, very fine sandpaper, and it's just to smooth the edges of the varnish a little bit. I'm not a huge fan of sandpaper, and I'd be even more cautious on like extremely old instruments. I also cleaned the area very thoroughly beforehand, so I actually had to glue, so I glued this patch here, and then would have clamped it with these clamps. And so I've already washed the glue off, and now I'm just going to put varnish on the area. So I'm going to use a fairly wide brush to apply, and I use a special cover varnish which is based on some original like resins that have been used for hundreds if not thousands of years. Okay, here we go. And I'm just gonna do a very thin coat through this area just to protect the timber around the hand patch. And the important thing is to protect the original varnish underneath as well. So there's this thin layer of a cover varnish that protects the original varnish underneath. I mean, obviously here, like where the hand patch is, there's not much varnish, so it's just straight timber. But here, I mean, there was like big patches of dirt before that I cleaned off. But I'll cover that kind of stuff in another video. I'm gonna do a violin cleaning video in the near future. Just gotta wait for the right instrument to come along, and then a client who's okay for me to share their really gross gross and dirty violin. Is it gonna happen? I don't know. I might have to choose one of my own, like one of the old instruments I bought or something. Okay, so I've just let it dries. It's a very quick drying spirit varnish, even though it acts a lot like an oil varnish with some of the rosins and the way it's been done. It's actually almost an in-between between spirit and oil varnish. It's just really important too that these edges, like where the joints are, where the top joints are sides, that area is totally sealed. Okay, so I'm just going to hang this up and then to let it dry. So it's going to dry for probably 20 minutes now, and then I'm going to do another coat, and because there was so little here, I'll probably do a few more coats, and then I just have to polish it. The client is coming tomorrow afternoon to pick it up, so it'll have the whole day to dry. Anyway, what I wanted to show you is that I am literally currently working on 5 different instruments. They're repairs I'm currently working, and of those 5 instruments, here's one, like there's an old viola, okay, and you can see the hand patch totally worn away. Then there's a beautiful old violin. Again, I've actually color retouched this area, but the hand patch was also totally worn away. Then I've got another violin. This one's got a very sturdy varnish, and you can't see any wear and tear on the hand patch at all on this one. And then there's one more, and this violin's been living in North Queensland, and again, worn hand patch. So this is a very common. So currently, out of the 4 instruments I'm currently working on for like services and things like that, out of the 5, 4 of them actually have issues with the hand patch. So it is so common. Yeah, it's quite amazing. Anyway, some time has passed, and I'd better get another coat of varnish on here. So this is now dry, and I'll get one more coat of varnish on here, and then probably one more after that, and then I'll let it dry, sand it back, and polish it. It's getting a nice layer of protective varnish on there now. I've still got to polish it back, so it's going to be interesting because that spot of the violin is going to look fantastic, and the rest of the instrument is going to look mediocre. But anyway, she's going to get the whole instrument polished again next year, I think. Okay, so it's been a little while. I've got the violin back down, and I'm just going to polish the area roughly. Then I'm going to let it dry, just to smooth out a lot of the varnish that I've put on. So, right, it's looking a lot better, but I'm going to let it dry, and then I'll sand it very roughly and a couple more layers of varnish on. Okay, another 20 minutes have passed, so I will give this a quick sand. It's a fairly fast drying varnish, so I'm going to give this area a little bit of a sand just to smooth out the varnish, which I've already polished, but so that's already a bit better. But just if there's just any little bits, then I'm going to wipe this dry. I'm going to add a little bit more varnish. It's just about protecting the instrument, but it's starting to look a whole lot better. So it's going to be nicely protected, ready for another year of playing. Now we wait. Okay, I've just actually been polishing quite a few instruments, and they're all starting to look good. I like bunching some of my repairs. It just makes sense because, you know, I'll have all the right tools out and things like that. So quite often when I plane one fingerboard, I might plane 3 fingerboards, or if I make one bridge, I make 3 bridges all at once. So this time I was polishing instruments, and the great thing is I actually, you know, the polish isn't that bad on my hands, but, you know, I prefer wearing a glove so I don't, you know, absorb too much into my hands. So now I am just going to polish over this area here. So I've done another couple of coats of varnish, so it's starting to really look good. Just got to be very careful not to kind of dissolve the varnish too much while I'm polishing. So while I'm polishing, I'm actually dissolving, using alcohol. I actually dissolve the very top layer of varnish, and then I kind of spread it around. And when I leave it, like when I polish too much, the varnish gets too dissolved, and that can mean that the cloth can stick to what I'm working on and make a real mess of the retouching. So I've got to take a little break now. I could just feel the cloth sticking a tiny bit. It's a very sensitive thing. So the next thing I'll do is I'll just sand what's there, and then give it one final polish, and then it'll be ready to be picked. Okay, I've polished quite a bit on the other instruments, and now I'm going to go back, sand the Handpatch, and do the final polish. And then I've just got to let it dry, and I'm going to go to lunch, and after lunch I'm going to try out the instrument. Okay, so I've just sanded over this area now, and I am going to do the final polish, which is very exciting. This cloth is too wet to do a final polish. Okay, that cloth was way too wet, so I just polished another violin, and now I've come back to this one. Yeah, when there's too much, when the cloth is too wet, it dissolves the varnish too much, and for a final polish, you just, because it's such a small area that you go over lots, that can really dissolve the varnish fast. But take a look, it's actually looking really nicely protected. The area here where it was really quite black from dirty fingers, and so that's super clean now, and I'm just going to put it aside, and then I'm on the way back. Once I'm back, I'll just do the very final touch, and then the instrument is ready to be picked up. Okay, I am back from lunch, so let's have a quick look at this repair, how it's going. I am totally happy with that. The area is fully protected. I'm just going to take the violin over to the shop and try it out. Yeah, that's all working well. I'm very happy with that. Happy that the area is protected again. So the client's coming tomorrow afternoon to pick it up. So I'll leave it overnight, and then tomorrow, tomorrow I'll give it a final check over. So if you want to protect your own Handpatch area, what can you do? Like how can you prevent that? So the best thing to do is always wash your hands before you play violin. When you're playing, just play normally. When you're just holding your violin, hold it by the neck. That's what it's made for. Don't touch the varnish areas here. Don't hold your violin like this. I'm actually not going to touch it now that it's freshly polished. And clean your instrument after you use it. So you just get a cloth. The suede microfiber works really well. And just clean over the entire instrument when you're finished. And I mean entire instrument. Also clean the strings, because there might be a bit of like perspiration on the strings, and that would also make the strings not last as long. So you may as well clean the whole instrument and really protect the varnish. So the varnish of an instrument is super precious and you should protect it. So anyway, I hope this video helped. If you liked the video, hit the like button, subscribe. There's a little bell there so that you get notified every time I post a new video. And I've got a lot of exciting stuff coming up. Anyway, keep making beautiful music, keep practicing, and I'll see you next time. Bye!